Hello everyone, I'm Major Jip, and it's been a while since I made a video. Figured I better start with something big, specifically an arcade cabinet. This arcade cabinet is a quarterback arcade machine. Quarterback was made in 1987. I believe this is a repurposed Frogger machine, because it's actually marked Sega Gremlin on the back. And that gets more to the story of the fact I don't really know what this is. I have not seen a single quarterback arcade machine that's set up like this. I've seen them with this same sort of cabinet design, but they are all black on the side. And I also don't think I've ever seen the label that's on the side of this. I've always seen like the full cabinet side labels. The control panel is weird. I don't know if this is just a hack together arcade where they had a bunch of random parts laying around, or if this was an early release. And I'm hoping that someone else who knows more about these things than I do can provide me a little bit of information. I'm going to get some information off the circuit board, and the wiring in this thing is absolutely horrendous. And you're going to see that. I'm going to have to try and clean up the wiring as much as I can. A lot of the stuff in this works. A lot of other stuff doesn't. For instance, the marquee on top, which... This marquee here, don't mind the mess. The garage is a nightmare, specifically because I had to fit an arcade cabinet into it. But yeah, this marquee, it has two lights, and neither of them work. The original cabinet had a fluorescent tube light, which doesn't work. And someone along the way just installed an Edison-based lamp with, I think, a 50-watt bulb that's just sitting behind this speaker. And that's not wired up. A lot has happened to this thing over the years of its existence, and that's one of the things I'm going to try and figure out as I go along. Also, the control panel is mostly normal now, but when I originally got this, and I'll show a picture of this, this joystick was here, and this joystick was broken off of here. And it was installed in that space for, I don't know why. No reason at all. This is a Wiko joystick, a genuine one. This looks like one of those cheap Chinese aftermarket ones. This one I had to fix because the rubber grommet broke into pieces, which is common. And this one's still not done because I need to find a proper spring for it. I just need to get to my bin of springs. And I'm sure I'll find one to fit it. It does run. It gets a little graphically glitchy after it runs for a little while, so something might be overheating, might be a bad connection. Kind of seems like a graphics ROM sort of problem. But that's the least of this thing's issues. The screen has burn-in, as most arcade cabinets do. The strange thing about the burn-in is for a game called Trivia Hang-Up, which has nothing to do with the Leland Corporation and nothing to do with Sega. So I can only assume that this CRT has been replaced because the previous one wasn't working, and also the adjustments are all off on it. Let's try and go back to the positives. The coin mechs are still in it. The coin mechs are still hooked up. It's still got the control panel inside for the volume. Now all the clocks are going to start going off. And they both do work. The little micro switches work. And I'm really not sure what this cabinet fully is. So I guess let me get into a better angle to see the screen. I'll turn off all the lights around me. And we'll just take a look at what the screen looks like. Okay, so I'm hoping this is going to be visible before I turn it on. I just wanted to show you, you can actually still read in the burn-in Trivia Hang-Up, and in that weird border that's around the screen is also part of that trivia hang-up game. And you could even kind of see some of the words sort of burned into the CRT there. And there's the number I was talking about, the 2805 on the bottom of the CRT. So my assumption is that this CRT was pulled from another arcade to try and get this arcade back going. But it's just weird. I would think you'd look for a better source of a display that's not burned in. But on the other hand, arcade displays are getting harder and harder to find. So I guess you work with what you can get. So let me get into a better angle. I'm actually going to turn this thing on and let you see it. Okay, so this isn't going to be perfect because there's going to be an awful lot of lines showing up in the screen, and I have to keep it a little bit out of focus or the whole screen looks even worse. I have the shutter speed and everything set. Usually you could set the shutter speed and get it so you don't see those weird lines, but I can't seem to get it right with this. Probably runs at a weird refresh rate or something. So let's plug it in, see what it does. This will be when the thing just up and dies. No? Alright, let's put in some coins. Ignore the clock that's going off in the background. I have a lot of them. So we'll do a one-player game. We're going to bypass.
Prepare for kickoff.
And right now you can tell the game's running a little slow and getting all glitchy. That's because I had it running for like a half an hour
Now
to try and get all these screen settings set up. For the first like 15 minutes, runs perfectly. And then it starts getting all glitchy, getting a little slow. So it might be a RAM chip's getting hot. Maybe the heat makes the connection worse. I'm going to have to go through the whole board and try and clean all the connections. At least give it a shot of working better. So now it's time to select this. This left joystick. I put the new rubber grommet in. Still isn't perfect, but I mean, this whole arcade isn't perfect.
Ready, set, right, let's move, right, let's move.
And I also have not played this much, so I am very bad at it.
Ready,
But I do know with that extra joystick on the side, you actually can choose where you're handling it. Oh my goodness, this is a mess. I'm gonna lower the volume on the cabinet.
ready, set, move, let's breathe, move, let's breathe.
But yeah, as you're out, I got wiped out already.
Ready, set, breathe, 72, breathe, 72.
But yeah, you could choose where you're throwing the ball to when you're playing offense. So I thought that was pretty neat. That's all I really have to show in terms of the gameplay. It does function, but I'm more interested in what the arcade actually is on the inside. So let me kick all the lights back on and, well, start tearing the back panel. Alright, so hopefully my light won't fall and you can get a good look at this control panel. This control panel is both wrecked and very interesting. See, every cabinet of this quarterback game that I've seen has had the control panel come out more and it had this sort of shape to it. And in fact, this looks like a decal from one of those machines. But instead of being placed on a machine that has that sort of angled metal, it just was placed onto this standard front panel, and a piece of plastic just put over it. And I really think that this may possibly just be a hack job, because just how everything is lined up. Like, there's an extra hole drilled there. Like, they drilled the hole and then they realized they messed up and they had to drill it further up and then just cut out the bit of decal that was left over. There's also a hole drilled here that's just been covered with tape. And and then this entire bottom panel piece looks like it's been spray painted, and it looks like it had a different decal underneath of it that had some orange and some like blue or purple. And there's the Leland in the front, and the push 3, which I'll show you, is literally attached to nothing. And when they went to paint it, they painted over this part of the label. In terms of the wiring, it is something else, even just on this panel here. Now, I will admit, I contributed a little bit to this, because when I got it, there was one broken wire. It was here. So I put this white and black wire in, and I just tied it in where the old wire was, and I didn't fix anything. 'Cause this is probably going to be a big project of fixing it one day. So these are, it's all just like electrical taped in place. Like I said, these are 2 leaf spring joysticks. This is the genuine... Oh, that could have been bad. This is the genuine Wiko one. This is an aftermarket one. You could easily tell because it's got these screws holding the springs in place, whereas this one is clipped in. Also, that bit of the joystick is loose, and that part's tight, so that's going to need some epoxy. These are all leaf spring switches, and that is the 3 button, or whatever it is down here, that literally has no switch underneath of it. So there's that. So that is the control panel. I guess we'll look behind the coin door next, and you can see what kind of loveliness is down there. What truly lies behind the coin door? Dust, apparently. So this is where your coins drop. Your coin bin goes in there. I do have the coin bin. I didn't put it in because I'm lazy. Like I showed before, these are your 2 coin mechs, and you can't see anything else. It's just a blank void. So let me get in there at a better angle and try and not get killed by my light. So right after saying that, my light fell on me. This is the inside controls of the cabinet. You don't get many. You get a service, which just adds in coins. You get a reset, which I'm not sure what it does, and you have the volume control. You could also see the hour meter on there, which means it's been plugged in and probably running for 43,339 hours. So it's got some use on it. I wasn't sure how to start this, so I figured I would start from the top down. What you're looking at is behind the marquee. What you could see is the white fixture right there. That is the fluorescent base that was original to this cabinet, with the cord cut off at the end of it. That cord was then taken from the fluorescent fixture to that Edison bulb that's right up there, that's sitting behind the speaker, so I don't think it would have lit up anything all that well. And as we'll get on to, none of this wiring is live, which is probably a good thing, because it looks like those wires are about to come out of that base. And it also, the ground wire was just disconnected and left floating. That's lovely. So let's move on to the monitor. The monitor will start with what I believe is the degaussing coil, which should be mounted on one of these brackets holding it up against the monitor, and it's not. Connected to this circuit board that's just hanging with a resistor and a diode into... There we go. Yeah, degaussing coil running to these wires, to this resistor and diode was just kind of hanging there. That's then soldered and electric taped to that wire, which is then electric taped to that wire, which is then attached into the board. Which, not exactly the way I would do it. This is the this is at the neck of the CRT. Has a chunk missing out of it, and I'm not sure what it was for. It's just like a section of the board chopped off. This whole circuit has this wire with PIV that just hanging loose into the cabinet. I guess it's not necessary. Now this is your incoming power. What they did is they bypassed the cabinet switch, which I'm sure isn't all that uncommon. The problem is they bypassed it, and then they didn't put the cover back on, and one of these wires is just coated in electrical tape. Not exactly the best method to do it. Okay, so before we get to the really fun part, pretty much every ground connection that this cabinet is supposed to have is not connected, which isn't good for safety. So, and I don't know why. It's bolted right there. So if they replace this whole monitor chassis, all I had to do was unbolt it and bolt the new one in. Now this is where it gets very fun. We have this ground wire running down from the box into this like grounding strip down here that leads to nothing. We have the original transformer, which is still in place. Now, one of these wires coming off this transformer is going to the monitor, which I don't believe needs to have a transformer tap. So this is going to the monitor. This originally went to the light, but they disconnected the light. That's just a connector hanging up there. And they connected this into the monitor. So the power comes into the cabinet here, in this electrical taped mess, into this connector, which is going nowhere, into, with all this extra wiring that's not attached to anything. It's just carrying mains voltage on it. Goes into the transformer and connects into 3 and... Okay, so power comes in from this mess. It goes into this transformer on 1 and 2. The power going to the monitor is also connected to 2. And the other side is connected to 4. And that's where this gets its power. The rest of the taps of the transformer are unused. They're just cut off because I guess they weren't needed. And there's literally just bits of wire hanging off of those that are practically touching. And this has had the power supply replaced. And it's got the 12 volts, 2 amps, 5 volts, 7 amps, ground, and your AC in. But they didn't put any spade connectors. They just wrapped the wires around the screw and tightened it in. And that's not good. When I got this cabinet, the first thing I did was move a few wires from the ground side that were practically touching on the positive side. And I also sort of tried to tie some of this stuff up. But it's gonna be a project. There's also the wiring loom going from the front control panel, which then runs down into the motherboard, which we'll get to in a minute. And I'm not sure what this is. There's just a random that goes to the speaker. So this is your speaker output wire. So it runs from the speaker to here, and then it's electrical tape and soldered there to this massively long wire that then runs to the loom and into the circuit board. So let's get down to the bottom level and we'll see what's hanging down there. So I don't really have too much to say about the arcade board section of this cabinet. I do know that there is 2 unused yellow wires. At least one is taped up. But looks like the wiring looms, they used all of the standard wiring looms for that would have came with the circuit board. They used the zip ties that you're supposed to screw into places, and then they didn't screw them in anywhere, which is just a minor thing. And also, I believe this circuit board is made to run on 10 amps, 5 volts. I'm going to have to double check that the power supply can actually handle the current that this board will draw, because that could also cause problems. But, you know, I'm assuming, just from looking at all of this, that this is just a hacked together arcade cabinet from just a bunch of parts that they had laying around. But it's just very strange to me that they would convert it to a quarterback machine, because from what I read, it wasn't exactly that popular of a game. I mean, they made a few cabinets of it. Maybe they just had the pieces laying around to do it. So I think that's about it for right now. This is just going to be a sort of ongoing project for me, just trying to fix up what I can on this cabinet, bring it to some kind of better condition, and I'll probably make some videos here and there documenting what I do. I'm going to try and get the original light fixture working for the marquee, clean up all this mess of electrical wires that isn't needed here, and find some adjustments for the CRT. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you have any sort of ideas about the history of this cabinet, feel free to let me know, because I'm pretty certain it's just a hack job, but who knows, it could be anything. So, thanks for watching. Major Jip, signing out. One more little thing, I just thought I'd show you this. So I did say this has the original Sega Gremlin marking still on it, and that's what I was talking about. It still has the original thing with the serial number and the part number, and it also has this. This is the original inspection sheet for when it left the factory. It's got everyone's signature that worked on it and did the inspection, which I just thought was pretty neat. So I'm glad that's still in there. Anyway, thanks for watching. Major Jip out.